Hey there! Today we're going to talk about the ink that came in this box, and a lot of you will recognize this. It's an Iroshizuku ink, and this is Yama Budo, Crimson Glory Vine. Now, I was there thinking Yama Budo. Yama means mountain. Budo means, like, you know, literally the way of war. Bushido is the way of the warrior. Budo means the way of war. It's like a similar concept, the way of the warrior, but apparently it's just a Crimson Glory Vine. Interesting. I was at La Couronne du Comte yesterday, a fountain pen store in the Netherlands, which had moved to a new location, and it was also my birthday yesterday. And then the owner said, "Well, here's a birthday present." So, Yama Budo, a nice ink. I had to try that out, and of course, I had to use that for an Inkcyclopedia entry straight away. So these bottles are quite special, very nicely designed. This is a high-end ink. These are not cheap. A nice, thick glass bottom. They're very heavy. 50 milliliters of ink. Have a nice little rope on them, and they have that little. You see that sort of triangular thing in there? I'm not sure whether I can really. Well, you can see it even without focusing. There's this nice little triangular thing in there. You put the nib in there, and then you fill the pen. Works very well. It's an interesting ink. It's a bit of a magenta color, I would say. Pleasant to use. Not particularly prone to feathering and a little bit of bleed through, but in all, I think it performs very well. This is a nice redeeming ink for me because I have Iroshizuku Momiji. I didn't really like that. You probably may have seen my Inkcyclopedia entry for that. I thought it was a little bland. Well, this ink is not bland, I can tell you that. So I've decided to give Iroshizuku another chance, and we'll see what happens. So, on to the writing part. I hope this is going to be useful, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Okay, here we go with Iroshizuku Yama Budo. Start with a bit of fine writing. The quick brown fox, hiked on a mountain. Do you ever hike on a mountain? Every once in a while I go to a mountain, but I hardly ever go to a mountain. I have heard that mountains are more fun, though. The quick brown fox. This is the most ridiculous cue. Oh, there we go. The quick brown fox. On a mountain. Broad. So what we are getting here is an interesting color. It's not truly pink. It's definitely not purple. Violet comes to mind, except that it's a little too dark for that. I have a good comparison color, I think, but we're not going to compare it yet. For now I'm just talking about the ink a bit. The quick brown fox. Hiked on a mountain. That's illegible, sorry. You know what it says. It says mountain. Okay. Let's introduce a bit of flex. As you can see, good flow. This pen can railroad quite a bit, as you know by now. And so far, it railroads. What an excellent timing. I'll just squeeze some ink into the feed. See how he likes that. And there we go again. Should line the pen well. Go a bit slow. The high mountain. Lovely color. Has some pretty good shading. I enjoy this. Fascinating ink. Let us have a look at some passes with a 6mm nib. We have one, we have two, we have three. One, two, three. Look at that beautiful color. This is magenta. I would definitely call this magenta. I have the feeling it dries up a bit darker than it is wet. Okay. Now, while we're having this 6mm nib out, let's make a somewhat fat letter. Y for Yama Budo. Do a bit of regular writing. We have to observe how this is drying and how everything is coming along. Okay, so what are we getting? I think this is pretty dry. Yes. Let's do a second pass right here. And a third pass. Well, that is a second pass, but for the third pass third pass will follow soon. So what you are seeing here is again that nice color again. You know, it's getting darker as it dries. That's okay. This is still a bit too wet. This, however, works. So I think we will start with that very sad moment, the bastard brush. Yes, well, there you have it. I think that while this is still drying, we should go for that moment you've all been waiting for, the Tardif test. That should give you an interesting idea of the shading. Okay, I think it's time for a third pass.
Oh, shut up.
Third pass, okay. This is still not entirely dry, so I will start with the scorecard for this specific ink. I just rearrange my desk. So what have we got? We have cleaning. Well, I still have some of that stuff on my fingers. I haven't cleaned the pen yet, but judging from what's on my fingers, I would say this is an okay ink to clean, but it's not the easiest. It's quite saturated. We have the bleed through. Have to judge that later. We have color. Well, what on earth do we call this? I would say magenta, a dark magenta. I think that's the best I can do. If you want to see your personal judgment in here, that's fine. Just send an envelope with 50 euros to me and we'll hook you up with some interesting stuff. Okay, I'm just kidding, of course. Shading. Well, shading is very good. It's a nice ink that shades very well, I would say. You get some really nice lighter and darker things in there, so that's cool. We have flow. Flow, I would say, is very good. I fill up the pens, they write straight away. There was some minor railroading with the Nudeless Flex pen, but let's face it, we have seen that before. So flow is good, and we've seen a lot worse. Feathering. We have to judge that later. We have the drying time. And we have waterproofness. Well, drying time seems to be okay to good. It's relatively long, I'd say. Waterproofness, we just have to figure that out, don't we? So, the tissue is grabbed, and we see that our writing is gone. Now there's one thing we have to do, and that is, of course, the eyedropper of death. Okay, well, I have the strong suspicion that all of the ink is going to just disappear right there. But I suggest that in the meanwhile we entertain ourselves by having a look at what is affectionately known as the Brown benchmark. That's disappointing. That's more like it. Okay, so I would say that waterproofness isn't too awesome on this ink. Waterproofness, poor. I mean, the writing was eradicated there. You can still see this a bit, but I mean, it's definitely not a very waterproof ink. Look, oh my god! I mean, the ink has flown all the way there. These brown benchmarks are devastating, my friends. Okay, what we'll do next is some copier paper. I love how this is coming along, by the way. Copier paper. Grabbing it here. Here we go. Let's start with a bit of fine writing. Ink flows well, doesn't skip on this paper. Medium, same feeling, works well. Broad, works well. And finally some italic. So, no real issues. I do not see any feathering. That was some fat writing, and I've seemed to have, oh, here we go. The cap of the pen was gone, but I have it. Now I dropped the pen, but I have it. And some flexi writing, that's what I want to see. Mountain. The railroading. Okay. Excuse me. So, what do we see here? I don't see any feathering. You see any feathering? And that was just me wiping out some ink, but that's no feathering. With the fat writing, there is some feathering around that bit, but that's really saturated, a lot of ink, and I guess you wouldn't really do calligraphy with a 6mm nib on copy of paper anyway. Flex writing, lots of feathering. You see it around the mountain here, the M. It's definitely there. Alright, so let's go back and finish up the scorecard. Bleed through. You see any bleed through? I see bleed through, but that's brown benchmark. This is 3 passes. Yeah, a little bit. This is probably flex. Yeah, that's flex writing on rodeo. But on regular writing, I don't see any bleed through. The copy of paper, it's a little different. With the broad, there is some bleed through. Italic, there is some bleed through, and of course with flex and fat writing, I would say bleed through is okay to good. I think I say that every week, but it clearly depends on the paper. But if I've seen worse, so that's okay. Feathering doesn't really seem to be an issue on nice paper like Rhodia. On copy of paper you'll get some, but actually only when you really push the ink in a very fat nib or a lot of flex, etc. So I would say feathering is good. As in, there is a little feathering. There is little feathering, that's what I should say. Okay, now as to comparisons. There's one ink that sprang to my mind. I've got that here. Let's start with this. So what we have is Iroshizuku. I'm pretty sure I should say Iroshizuku. The final U is usually silent in Japanese, as far as I know. Yama Budo. Slower. Oh. There we go. Bits of brown benchmark. Okay, what do I have as a comparison ink? I hope this is going to write. I had some trouble getting this to write. What I have is Gerbin. Well, you know what it says. Larme de Cassis. Maybe I should say Cassis. Cassis ou Cassis? Je ne crois pas. Ouais. Merde. Doesn't really matter. Right, or I will send you to a mountain. That thought scares you, doesn't it? Larme de Cassis, Cassis, whatever you like, it's still a free country, is a bit lighter, I would say. But it's definitely in the same part of the color spectrum, I think. So I hope that comparison was useful. And, well, that concludes our business. So, here we go. A very popular ink, Iroshizuku Yama Budo. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you later.